Welcome to Founders Friday. This is a tell-all for revenue-obsessed folks. We invite experts that are responsible for driving revenue to share their experiences and to help educate and entertain. Remember to share your secret sauce. Keep your responses punchy and let's have some fun with it. My guest today is Melissa Lee. She's responsible for revenue operations at Perpetua. Melissa brings over 6 years of revenue operations experience at Perpetua and prior to that at Hired. She's been working in the SaaS industry in both recruiting and the ad tech space over these past few years. Melissa, thank you for joining us for this Founders Friday episode this afternoon. Look forward to hearing about your insights. Maybe you could just start us off by sharing your career journey and introducing yourself to the audience.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is career journey, my favorite question all the time. This is a really good question because anyone's career journey, especially in the space of revenue operations, can come from a variety of backgrounds. So I'm always very excited to hear how people stumbled into revenue operations in general. Personally, for myself, I actually started in a operations coordinator role. So what that means was that I was an extra set of hands that could dip my way in and out of different functions, get exposure to all these different teams. And that really helped me narrow in on where I wanted to be. And slowly I moved into the revenue operations team as an administrator, and then slowly started doing more work like commissions work and forecasting work, doing forecasting calls, which really led me to where I am now. Really enjoy what I'm doing. And I love working with a lot of different teams. Yeah.
Awesome. So working with different teams, tell us a little bit about what teams does revenue operations support at Perpetua? What's kind of the scope of responsibility that you and your team are responsible for?
Yeah, so the revenue operations function here at Perpetua, we work mainly with the revenue team. So what that means is that the sales team, the marketing team, the customer success team, as well as our finance team. So we coordinate, I guess, we orchestrate all these different efforts that are happening at the same time, and we make sense of how it really fits into the business as a whole. Understanding all these different drivers really makes sense of data is what the team is responsible for. Yeah.
Perfect. So, when I looked up Perpetua, it's described as a growth infrastructure for e-commerce. So help our audience understand that a little bit better. Like, what is it exactly that Perpetua does and how does it help e-commerce companies grow?
Yeah, so Perpetua is a tool that leverages AI algorithms to help e-commerce businesses optimize their advertising campaigns and efforts. And in turn, this really helps grow the business by driving up their sales, which is revenue. We work with a lot of amazing brands, and we started off in the Amazon space. Amazon advertising is huge, so that was a no-brainer to start off. And in the past year, we've actually launched into Instacart, Walmart, and Target as well. So optimizing businesses and growing with them is our end goal. Yeah.
Very cool. And you mentioned to me in the past that from a business model standpoint, Perpetua is set up as a consumption-based model. Yeah. It's not very well known or well understood in the industry today. So could you take a moment and help folks understand what does that mean, and particularly in your context, in the Perpetua context, what does that exactly mean?
Yeah, so the consumption model, like you said, is there's not a lot of documentation or articles out there that companies are producing best practices for. And something that I've picked up at Perpetua, because of the nature of our business, which is advertising dollars that flow through our system, it's very interesting to see how people's businesses grow in terms of their advertising dollars. And so in a sense, we're actually forecasting businesses from a bottoms up view, where we're looking at our customers and we're seeing the trajectory of their businesses. Variable pricing is something that a lot of companies have recently adopted as well. And it's very hard to get right, first of all, but our customers love that because it's you pay what you use, right? And that is something that has been becoming more and more popular over time. And so trying to get that sweet spot of getting the right pricing as well as the consumption features that users are actually making use of and love, I think that is what we're driving toward eventually. Yeah.
Got it. Very cool. And so obviously, when you think about consumption pricing, and customers, of course, love it because they pay for what they use. But as part of this, you probably have to measure what that usage is. So can you share a little bit about how does the product team measure what the product usage actually is, and how do you then what are some of the things that the customer success team needs out of that data to figure out what that data means for different purposes in their different parts of their organization?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So here at Perpetua, we are actually a product-led company. So what we like to do is build what customers need or help the business with. So our product team, for example, leverages a lot of product usage data to tell them whether a certain feature is being adopted, whether there's engagement with that feature, or if it's not being adopted, then on the flip side, why is it not being adopted? Maybe it's not a good fit for that customer type. Maybe it's not a good fit for just a business model in general. So that feedback loop is really important for the product team. And then for the more client-facing team, so the revenue team, we like to use that data more as signals and indicators. So for example, if there is a group of users that are not really following best practices in terms of how our product should be used, we can kind of predict that they're probably not going down a good path and they're very likely to churn. And on the flip side, if there's a set of customers that are following best practices, we've laid out so many guidances, and if they're following every step of that, likelihood of them being successful on the platform is really, really high. And so that really plays into the retention strategy. How we use user tracking data is to signal the team like, hey, this customer is going really well, maybe send them a survey, check in, get feedback from them. If they're going down the path that is not so positive, then we're going to want to throw someone in there to talk to this customer and try and figure out why they're not following what best practices are for our product. So indicators and signals are more like for the customer facing team. Yeah.
Got it. So Melissa, you talked a little bit about it from the lens of customer success, and then how do you drive or address potential attrition issues or customer health issues and so on. Yeah. Can you share a little bit more from a sales standpoint, on the front end of the sales process or pre-sales process? Is there a role for product usage data in that context as well?
100%. That was my first thought whenever I think of how to make more money from a customer. So as a business, for the past 2 to 3 years, from 2019 to 2020, we've doubled our customer base. And then 2021, we've doubled again in our customer base. And a lot of the strategy behind this really big customer base we have now is how to retain these people. But because of the nature of Perpetua, we have different product lines. So there is a new business element in there. Apart from complete net new business, we also try to cross-sell and upsell customers as well into other product lines. And how we can do this is to see what they're clicking on, what they're looking at, or seeing other parts of their businesses, whether we can optimize a different area with a different product line and support their growth in their e-commerce business. Yeah.
Got it.
And these are low-hanging fruits, I would say.
Yeah. Now, do you offer a free trials process on the front end for your customers, or if our customers just wanted to try out the product for a short period of time? Is there some version of the product available for them to try that out?
We currently don't have a free version, but we do have a pilot version, which is a discounted pricing of our full pricing model. And we like to give that to customers just to test out our product, so they're not locked into like any annual contracts before they even understand the product. I think advertising in general is a very complex product in its nature. And so the strategy might not work for every customer. And that's why we're trying to grow our product to try and fit as many different customer types and customer needs. And so we offer this like 2 to 3 months pilot period for customers to really try our product. And if they don't like it, it's a month to month, they can just cancel.
Got it. Very cool. So now, I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit away from the business models and the pricing models to understand what are some of the tools and technologies that you're using today to measure product usage, to your CRM footprint, for instance, for your customer-facing teams. Help us understand that footprint a little bit better.
Yeah, so right now we have quite a few triggers set up from the product. And this goes into our CRM, which is Salesforce. So if there's any area, for example, if a customer is requesting a demo for a new product that we just launched, that goes into Salesforce to alert the account manager or the AE that's prospecting that account. And from there to have a discussion, have a meeting, see whether it's qualified, whether we're a good fit for them. And then in terms of the customer success retention team, we also have signals, like I mentioned earlier, that go into our CRM and say, hey, this person is interested. Maybe it's not quite so much like a request a demo type of hand raiser, but it's still interest and still shows customer intent. And so that flows into our CRM as well to alert our customer success team. We have other tools that we use to make it more engaging. So obviously Slack is our tool of messaging, and we have some alerts that go straight into there because sometimes just really distracting with all these different tools. So we like the message to go directly to the person. So Slack is also a really big one that we use. Mixpanel is something that we use on the product side. We've talked a little bit about this. It's not quite as robust as I would like it to be, but it does track the key activities that we have, like goal creation, goal editing, campaigns, all of that. So it's we're getting there. It's not super robust yet, but we're getting there, especially after we've chatted with your team, Immersa. I think we have a lot of things coming down the pipe, which will be exciting.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I think the CRM footprint and the product sort of instrumentation that you've already put in place, for most startups, you're ahead of the curve, and in particular because you're driving a consumption-based pricing model. Now, when we connected last year, you obviously saw an immediate need for Immersa, is why we're here today. But help me understand some of the use cases that were kind of top of mind for you as we walk through what Immersa could do. And obviously, I could see the light bulbs going on. So share a little bit about what are the use cases that are kind of the top of mind use cases for your organization.
Yeah. So earlier I mentioned a couple of things. For example, a customer base growing so quickly. I think another metric that we really like to look at on top of this is LTV. So how long a customer is going to stay with us and how high that LTV is. What's the value that this customer is bringing to us, right? And in order to do that, we want to drive that up. And how we drive that up is to make the product more sticky. And the cross-selling, upselling is something that we are huge fans of, because the more products that a customer is engaged with us, the more likely that they're going to stay with us. So this ensures a higher retention rate, right? And then in terms of just strategy in general, earlier I talked a little bit about as well the user behavior of things. We have a set of best practices that users should follow should they want to go a certain trajectory. And this is based on historicals of other customers that have similar profile types, similar size, similar segments, and similar verticals, because we're in the advertising industry. And so we have a lot of this data, and what we've done is we've kind of aggregated everything to tell customers that these are the steps to follow if you want to see success on our platform. We've also built our platform in such a unique way that customers can really do a lot of things. So it gets very overwhelming, I would say. And so that's why we need these guidebooks to follow. So we use this to really look at user behavior and to track who are all delinquent users or who are champion users. So this ties back into identifying the contact roles within each of our customers. We like to know who our decision makers are. We like to know who our power users are, the champion users. In general, I think this feeds us a lot of information about an account. So when we know something's about to go wrong, we know exactly who to reach out to. We know what was done on the platform, why things are going wrong, and just having all those insights really helps you predict your business as well as your relationship with the customer. Yeah.
Got it. Very interesting and very forward-leaning, I might add, in terms of how you're thinking about empowering your customer-facing teams with this usage data. Now, obviously, when you think about investing your time and effort and resources into deploying something like Immersa or one of the revenue operations platforms that are out there, what's the ROI framework? How do you think about the expected ROI out of a tool like a revenue operations platform like Immersa?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And to answer it in a general sense of tools, I think tools in general are supposed to save you time, right? Because time at the end of the day is money. If you're not using a tool to do a certain task, you have a human actually doing that certain task. So a tool is meant to come in to automate all this human work that can be automated by a robot or a machine or a software. And that frees up your time for your humans. So this ties back into resource allocation. We do headcount planning. So when we're trying to think about the tools that we're implementing, we're also trying to see what kind of work we can push off plates off of people to let them do higher level work. And a tool like Immersa really takes away a lot of the granular work that people have to do, digging into a lot of data, running queries, trying to figure out what this means or what that means. And that's a lot of work and a lot of time spent. So when you don't have the necessary tools to have visibility into your product data, you're really just throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's not a good use of our time. That's just actually just a waste of time, to be honest. You're not allocating the right time to the right customers. If the customer is at risk, you don't know that, and you don't know to bring forward that meeting and have a sooner chat, because time kills deals, right? At the end of the day, like if they sit in that state long enough, they're likely going to churn. So we want to be preemptive about what we're doing. And we also want to be wise with our time while we're doing that.
Got it. Got it. Very helpful, to think about it from that lens, Melissa. Now, we've of course been now working for a few weeks together. Any feedback that you can share with us, or what's your experience been with Team Immersa so far?
Yes, 100%. My team loves Immersa. We really enjoy working with the Immersa team. We're fans. I think a lot of that comes from how solid the people in Immersa are. You understand the industry, you understand the roles and how it fits into the bigger picture. And I think providing that thought leadership is something that any team will appreciate, right? Like, we're not going to say no to help, and we're not going to say no to learning best practices, because at the end of the day, that's going to help scale our business. And so my team loves Immersa, and we can't wait to get started on even more. It's very exciting.
Well, thank you so much. And, it makes our lives and our jobs a lot easier when we have somebody on the other side so forward leaning and thinking about how they want to leverage all of this, interesting data sets to drive their business. So it is a mutually beneficial relationship and a partnership. And we absolutely love the team. Thank you so much. Now, you've built obviously a very successful career in revenue operations. It's quite apparent from listening to you that you have a very well thought out point of view on revenue operations. What advice would you have for someone who's just starting out, fresh out of college, thinking about this particular area as a potential career path? Any advice or words of wisdom you'd offer to them?
Yeah, I think having a very curious mind, and I know this record has been playing over and over again, I think having a very curious mind, never stop asking why, is probably my number one advice to anyone. Because once you box yourself into a certain barrier, you don't look at every single piece in the puzzle. And you're going to miss out on some very low-hanging fruits or some really fun, exciting projects that can really skyrocket your business. And understanding the drivers in your engine of whatever vehicle you're driving, could be a car, could be a truck, could be a motorbike, understanding all the drivers that fit into that engine and why it does what it does is so important to understanding the business as a whole and seeing which areas bring in revenue and what you need to tweak to really skyrocket everything. Yeah.
Well, that is very sage advice coming from someone who's obviously been there, done that. Melissa, I just want to thank you for your time today. You've been super helpful in not only helping Immersa figure out how we can engage with Perpetua and where we can add value, but the discussion today clearly benefits all of our audience in terms of your point of view on why product usage data is so critical and so important for all of the customer success teams. How to start to leverage that data preemptively. That is a theme that I heard pretty recurringly throughout the conversation today, and be more proactive and predictive about it. I think you kind of established pretty early on that time's the most valuable currency that we have as people, as businesses. And so it's all about how do we drive our businesses much more efficiently in that regard. Anything else you'd like to add in terms of just kind of synthesizing your point of view before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I think that when there's so many tools in the world, so many,
Yeah.
endless. Like for a cab ride, I have 5 on my phone, and I think sometimes it might be very distracting for a person to evaluate the tool. So most likely, people are going to be to go with the most well-known or the most heard of. But there are a lot of emerging tools that are coming up, and there are new players in the game now. And people really have to evaluate and understand their own business first before they implement another tool, because stripping out a tool can be a lot of work once you've done the implementation. Understanding how your business fits with another tool, not just because a ton of other companies have done it, understanding that from your lens, you're the best person in the company, and making that match made in heaven, I think is really, really important due diligence to do. Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think that is what kind of continues to drive the entrepreneurship engine and the innovation engine for a lot of the tech industry, is when folks like yourself are willing to step forward and take a chance with early stage startup like us. So thank you for that partnership, and thank you for your time today and for sharing your perspective. I understand, of course, you can reach out to Melissa on LinkedIn. And of course, if any of you have a point of view on data, on how to leverage data to drive revenue, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk to you, and we'd like to advance the conversation in the industry. Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you, Asim. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks.